Hello, Summer Institute. This is Steve, and this is my first screencast. So today all I'm going to do is show you just a couple of things. I'm going to talk about screencast-o-matic because that's what I chose to use, and I am going to show you a little bit of what I'm currently doing in Game Maker for my video game programming class that I'll be running this next spring. So first off, I wanted to find some good screen capturing software that would work good for the Summer Institute, and I looked at a couple different things, including Cam-O-Matic. That was the last one I looked at, and I really felt that screencast-o-matic was the best one, which really kind of surprised me because this is fully run in the browser. You don't have to install anything. It runs off of Java, and that's just really impressive to me. So I'll say the only problem I have with it is how it records video, and what I mean by that is actual animations like video running. That's going to be a little bit of a problem because whenever I'm showing certain games that I'm making or playing, I would like for them to be as fluid as possible, and it seems with this tool that it captures maybe every other frame. So it looks like I'm running maybe like 15 frames a second. Not really sure whenever I'm looking at it in the video, not when I'm actually seeing it on my screen. So there's a little bit of discontinuity there with that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here I got Guild Wars 2 up and running. This is my cat. He's pretty cool. That's my brand new sword, which I'm very happy about. But the point of this is what I'm seeing on my screen is very, very fluid, smooth animation. I think I'm running probably, I can actually check here real quick. I'm running at, right down here, 52 frames a second. So this is fluid smooth. I mean, this looks good. But whenever I record it with screencast-o-matic, it looks choppy. So when I'm running around, I mean, and I guess if you haven't seen how this game looks on my computer, you maybe wouldn't know the difference, but it looks bad at what you're seeing right now on screen-o-matic. It's only showing every other frame, which is really noticeable, especially like, say I take down this deer here with my sword. Some fast animations like that, just really doesn't look that good. So, not really happy about that. Matter of fact, this is how I kind of feel. Make my guy cry. Yeah. Not good. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. So let me go ahead and show you some of the things that I'm doing with Game Maker. So here's Game Maker, and this is just the basic screen. I'm starting up an Asteroids game that I'm going to be making with the class. And the cool thing about this game is that my class is going to be able to make a fully functional Asteroids type game without doing any code for probably the first, I would say 70% of the game. Game Maker has all of these different widgets here, which you can see where my mouse is. And I can flip through all these tabs. There's just so many different tools available, and students can basically create objects. They can drag functionality into the events panel here, and then they can create a bunch of actions. So they can have an event, say, if you press up on the keyboard, make the object move this velocity, move this speed, move this direction across the screen. You can also have some programming logic, so you can have like some if-else type statements done with these widgets. You can have like the step here is basically a loop in programming, and so you can have that done again with the widgets. And so they're going to be able to pretty much make an Asteroids game with the ship, in space. They can fly it around, shoot some lasers, blow up some asteroids, and do all that kind of stuff without doing any code initially, which is really going to be cool for them to be able to learn programming, because it's really cool to start out this way, just learning the logic without actually having to stare at a screen of code. But the cool thing also about this is that they're going to be doing that. I'm going to also be showing them some Java on the side and teaching them a little bit of code, teaching them some switches, teaching them about objects, about fields, data types, functions. I'm going to be kind of interjecting these things parallel with creating this game, and then towards the end of the game, they are going to have to do some scripting. So they're going to have to do like what I'm doing here with this code to make the ship warp from one end of the screen to the other. They're going to need to write some code to make the asteroids randomly appear throughout the space, and have those asteroids have random velocities so that they go in different directions. So there's going to be a decent amount of code towards the end of this project that the students are going to have to do as well. So let me just kind of walk you through a couple things here real quick. Up here is the sprites that I've started. So these are just coverings for the objects. I kind of think of them as like Halloween costumes. So myself, I'm an object, and I have certain properties. I have a height, I have a weight, I have a run speed. I can only run for so far. I have an endurance. I can only run for so long. But if I was to put a Halloween costume on, like a witch costume, then I would look like a witch, but I'm still Steve. So the costume would be the sprite. I could put a Superman costume on, and now I look like Superman. So the costume is just what I look like, but the properties inherited within me are just myself. And so that's kind of the difference between a sprite and an object. And so here I've just created some sprites. So here's, whoops, did not want to do that. Center that. So here is, for instance, my ship sprite that I started making. And you can see what that looks like in all of its beautiful glory. I'm thinking I might start teaching art after doing some of this, because it's pretty fantastic work right here. But I'll be pretty excited to see what the students come up with whenever they make their sprites. But here's like the editor. I have a palette of colors over here, some tools for drawing straight lines, making circles, the size of my brush, stuff like that. You can make change the opacity of it as well. So there's some really cool tools in here to make your sprites. So what I've done so far is I've made my ship, I've made a bullet. So bullets are really small, and here's what my bullet looks like in all of its glory. And I made a little sprite for the shield, because one thing the ship's going to do is you're going to have if an asteroid comes to hit you, you're going to have a shield with a certain amount of energy available, and you can turn the shield on, so you're going to have the ship look like a shield's around it too. So I have that as well, and that's just going to have this kind of gray covering over it. I also have a bunch of sprites for the asteroids. So I'm going to have some big asteroids, I'm going to have some small asteroids. And the reason is that if you initially hit a big asteroid, then it's going to form into several smaller asteroids. And so I need to have sprites for both of those, and I have some different random ones, just random different shapes for the asteroids, so that they're not all the same. And so I've made those also. The other thing I've done currently is I've added a bunch of sounds, and so here's all of the different sounds. So I have, let me see if I can get one going here. I have a ship sound. I run it. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the ship sound. See if I can have a bullet sound. Yeah. So there's my bullet. Turn it up a little louder. It's looping, but every time you shoot a bullet, it'll make that sound. So I got a bunch of sounds in here. And then here is where you can have your background. So I've picked this background right here currently, but I think it's kind of ugly, so I'm probably not going to use it. And then here is your room, and so this is the dimensions of the area that the ship will be flying around in. I haven't really done much with it other than just make the size of it. But here's where you put your background and you place all of your objects and stuff like that. So that's pretty much all I've had, or all that I've done so far. Show you a little bit of code here. Here's my objects. So here's the ship object, for instance, and I have some stuff going on here. I have some controls. And I actually have a piece of code in here that the students are going to have to write. Oh, not that. That's later on. Let me see here. This code right here. This will be one of the first pieces of codes that the students have to write. right after I showed them about if statements. And this code right here is designed for moving the ship off one end of the screen to the other end. So if you ever played Asteroids back in the 80s, you would know that when the ship hits the left side of the screen, it in essence kind of warps to the right side of the screen, so it looks like you're just kind of going through one side of the screen and coming out the other, so that you can maintain your velocity and just, so it's kind of like a never-ending loop where you just go from one side and come out the other. Well, this right here, I happen to have X and Y as the coordinate positions of the ship, and so in this if statement right here, I'm saying basically if your X position for the ship is less than 0, then it is going to set your X position right in here to 1024. And that's not just some arbitrary number. 1024 is the amount of pixels I've set as the width of the screen. So basically, if you hit the 0 pixel, the pixel on the far left side of the screen, it'll now send you to the pixel on the far right side of the screen. So it'll, in essence, warp your ship through the screen. And then this one again is just, if X is greater than 1024, so that's if you hit the right side of the screen, it'll warp you to the left, and then same thing for Y. And these ifs, these parameters here, get checked every single time the game loops, which is, I don't even know how many times a second, lots of times a second. It checks all of these different things. So here's your if, here's your conditions inside. This has to either work out to be true or false, and then if it does work out to be true, then here's what happens on the inside of that if statement. So that's just a little sample of some code that I'm starting there too. And so that's pretty much it for this. I am hoping the next time I do a screencast that I'll actually have this game up and running and I can play the game for you and show you what it looks like. And that'll be, again, the first project that my students are going to complete in the course that I'll be having next year. So thanks for listening.